You good? You here? I can hear you now. I think I hear
Yeah,
you
I
now.
can hear it. Yeah, I'm good. I can hear you now. How's it going, man?
Good. Thank you for joining us. And so, Justin Trombino, Italian, correct?
100%, man.
Where are you from? What part? Your family?
My family's actually from Calabria.
Calabria. My dad, my grandmother's from Pescara.
Okay.
So
That's all I kind of
no,
know.
no, you're
Small little
good.
town.
Yeah.
Small little village, I guess, called Ravito.
Rovito. Okay.
In a small area in Floveto of Cosenza. Kind of where they're all from.
That's cool as hell, man. That's cool as hell. So, give me a little background from about you. Where'd you go to school, and how'd you get into writing and just covering the NBA as a whole?
Yeah, man. So I picked up sports writing late in high school and kind of early in college, and then it kind of just became like a hobby after that. And then I honestly got into a debate with some guy on Twitter about the Celtics, and he just kept going back and forth, back and forth. And I was just, what is it with this guy? And then finally, he ended up. He sent me an email, and he was. I'm not sure if he still is, but he was the president of Fansided, Mr. Dunlap. And we were just going back and forth for days. And then he just said, I really enjoyed the debate that we had. It was civil. It was, somewhat professional. It was kind. Would you like to come write for the website? So that's kind of how it happened. And then I was like, really? You think I could write for a website? And it just kind of kicked off from there. If things were different and I was back in college, I definitely would have taken up journalism and gotten more into the field. But I've kind of just took my fandom of the Celtics and just tried to do my best in covering them. And I've been fortunate enough to be in different outlets. And up to this point, I've kind of just put my thoughts out there on paper, and some people agree with me, some people don't. And it's gotten me to this point for about 5 years now. Just talking about the Celtics, jumping on different podcasts, writing articles, kind of just doing a little bit of it all, I guess. But yeah, that's kind of it. Started out as a hobby, and it still is a hobby. But I guess I just really enjoy the Celtics so much that I needed to do more than just watch them on TV. So So
no, I completely understand you. I love the NBA. Like, I have my own teams, but the reason why I go to school, like, I'm a news and info journalism major with a focus in sports, but it's hard to break into sports. So this is why during quarantine, I love the NBA. It's always been there. Any dark time, I always had the NBA. I also had basketball to go outside. So exactly what you said, just it's a great outlet in a sense for just being able to speak or write about something you enjoy. Is just what I personally think, and I think you'd agree, is just very fulfilling.
Oh, 100%. Being able to get your thoughts on paper, and especially about something you're passionate about, like the Celtics, and have other people feel similarly, or just read your work, it is fulfilling. And whether people read it or not, it's just fulfilling to get your work out there, and someone's looking at it. But
No,
it is fulfilling.
Completely agree. And especially just even when people comment, even if they disagree, it's just being able that your words, or written or spoken, created discussion is just a vindicating feeling.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
So let's get into it. You are a contributor for Hoops Habit. You also have a few podcasts and other sites you write for. I'll link all of them if you just want to plug yourself right now.
Yeah, sure. So I am a contributor for Hoops Habit. I've done work in the past with the guys over at Causeway Street. I've been on their podcast maybe once or twice, but more so writing articles for them. Couch Guy Sports, that's actually where I'm a co-host of a Celtics podcast called the Raptors Podcast. Right now, I sort of am trying to start my own little venture in having my own platform to write about the Celtics on, outside of Fansided or just other other websites, kind of just trying to do my own thing through WordPress. So I actually started my own little Celtics website called the Celtics Files. If you see that on Twitter or just trending around, you're on the internet, the CelticsFiles.com. That's me as well. But yeah, between Hoops Habit, Causeway Street, Couch Guy Sports, and myself through the Celtics Files, that's kind of where you can find a lot of my work.
Sweet. I'll put that all in the description. And let's
thanks, man.
No problem, man. I just want to thank you for taking the time to do this out of your day. And I just want to make sure you get the credit and be able to get this light shown on your work. And so,
appreciate that.
No problem. And also, so getting into the Boston Celtics, we could all say my dad's a huge Celtics fan. So for me, when I first got into basketball, it was just all about Larry Bird, Dennis Johnson, Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale. Like my dad went to school in Bentley in the 80s. So
okay.
He and his roommate's dad worked in the front office at the time. So experienced a lot of good basketball. And for me, I've only seen losses of the Boston Celtics. I didn't start getting into basketball fully until the year after they won the championship, because that's when the big book of basketball by Sports Illustrated came out and they were featured in it. And then first time I saw them, they lost in 2010 against Kobe after Kobe I was living in Orlando at the time, they beat my freaking Magic. So I was upset that this year that I think if you agree with me, one of the major catalysts of this team was they didn't have any scoring off the bench. That's was the biggest thing, and they addressed it. So what do you think of the offseason and free agency so far by the Celtics in your point of view or perspective as a Celtics fan? How would you interpret it or dissect it?
The bench production as a collective on the team was something that Brad Stevens said that he wanted to address and make a point in revamping the team. Udoka, you have a team of 15 and he used 8 guys for pretty much the entire season. And we saw it affect them down the stretch in the finals. Guys are just way too winded. So being able to have a team where Udoka feels comfortable of using 10, 11, 12 guys a night is key. And I think I'm a huge Brad Stevens guy as a coach and a GM. So I think he's just crushed it ever since he's been sitting in the big chair. But this offseason, you needed production, playmaking, and scoring off the bench. And I think he got 2 guys in Gallinari and Brogdon who fill that mold perfectly. I guess there's been talk about before Brogdon signed here that, they had envisioned him being in the six-man role off the bench, and he's open to doing that, whatever the role is. He wants to do it. But yeah, the way that this offseason has gone, really just making those big 2 moves. I'm unsure if they're going to use the TPE. I really feel strongly about the Summer League team, and I think Brad does as well.
So, thinking about the Summer League team is, I know one of the guys, Summer League standout last year, Sam Hauser, he got the 3-year deal this offseason. So I think he'll actually, because they need shooting. This is another thing that they needed shooting. Defense is fine. They have it figured out. You might want, there is some worry. Al Horford, will he be able to reproduce that at the age that he is? But at the same time, if you look at the team right now, Danilo is going to probably play power forward and actually probably play some small ball 5, unless they envision him playing a Lowry Markkanen role. How do you feel about that? I think he's just going to come off, and I think Malcolm Brogdon and Danilo Gallinari are kind of going to be similar to how Joe Ingles and Jordan Clarkson were a year ago for the Utah Jazz, where they could both be in the 6-man year of the year race, because Danilo is going to be Jordan Clarkson, green light, shoot as many threes as you can over people. And then you're going to have Malcolm Brogdon be Joe Ingles, who's able to score, but really just facilitate the offense. How do you think?
I'd agree with that. And that's exactly going to be Gallinari's role. Come in and shoot. Obviously, the nucleus of the Celtics, even dating back to Brad Stevens as a coach, has been defense. You get on the court by playing defense. Gallinari, I think guys were shooting 50% over him last season. Defense just isn't. I think it's expected. You know, you're not going to get stellar defense out of him, and I think that's okay. I think for the role that you need him to play, score points off the bench, you can come in and do that. But yeah, that's a good comparison, I think, especially with Brogdon, because Brogdon can do so many things, and the Celtics definitely have a type that they like in point guard, because they have three guys who can all sort of do similar things in Brogdon, White, and Smart. But yeah, I'm more interested in the Gallinari role. I think there's going to be a lot of expectations on him, and same to your bringing it back to Hauser. I think there's going to be a lot of expectations on Hauser, and I'm unsure if he can actually deliver or not. That's a big question that he'll have to answer, and the Celtics are relying on him, especially on the bench, given the contract and everything that's going on this offseason. I think he's going to be expected to play a big part in the bench with Gallinari. I feel like they're sort of setting the bench up to be its own mini sort of unit in its own. You have Brogdon as the point guard. You have Gallinari and Hauser, who can play the wings. And then, get another shooter in there, I guess,
Grant Williams at center. Would you go small as right there to go five out?
I guess it depends really what you do. Really with the starting unit, obviously, this sounds silly to say, but if they're going to run with the two bigs or not, because then that means, Al Horford could come in for the second unit, which I guess you could have Grant as the 4 in that unit, and you'd have Gallo at the 3, I guess Hauser at the 2 with Brogdon at the 1. But I guess it really just depends on how they want to do it. I guess with the second unit, maybe you do want to go a little small, where that would make Grant the 5. But yeah, I mean, Grant's great on defense. I'm not too worried about where he is defensively. But yeah, I do think in all the moves that they've done is so that they can actually have a second unit run on its own. And I think that's going to alleviate minutes, obviously, from the core, which, as I said before, I think fatigue played a part down the stretch in the finals last year.
Yeah, definitely, because they were literally running a 7-man rotation, 8-man rotation some nights. It was absurd because the starting lineup was Williams, Horford, and, well, I should say Williams the third, so to differentiate them. But Jalen, Jason Tatum, and Marcus Smart, and then you basically just had off the bench Grant Williams and Derek White. That was it most nights. But
right.
So I was going to get into the lineups and the players in a sec, but who do you think from the Summer League so far has impressed you that could earn a two-way contract or bottom of the roster spot? Because one could argue they might need another big, and it might be in their best interest to try to find like a poor man's version of Robert Williams III or someone of similar to Al Horford. Like, they missed out on Jalen Williams. I was wishing they got Jalen Williams from Arkansas so bad.
Right. Yeah. No, that would have been a great pickup. In terms of that, so the Celtics, as I understand, have 3 open roster spots and 1 two-way spot available after they technically signed JD Davidson to one of their available two-way slots. Mm-hmm. So of those 3 roster spots, well, I guess you could say 4 with the open two-way, I really think that those guys are on the Summer League team right now that are going to fill out the bottom end of this roster. I don't think they're really going to make a big splash with the TPE. If we're talking about the big man, I am so high on Trevion Williams since they got him. I think they got him on draft night, actually, to the Summer League team, like later on that night. I've been really big on him. He can pass. He is, I guess, in a different set of words, I guess, but I guess he is the poor version of Robert Williams. He can do so many different things. The thing with him, he struggles on defense, but I do think he's worth a roster spot. And Brad Stevens said before the draft the plan is to keep a developmental guy or two at the end of the bench. I think that could be Trevion Williams, Juan Bagarin. I know I'm butchering that name, but I think he earns the second two-way spot. I think Matt Ryan and Mfiondu Kabengele are going to earn the other two roster spots. I think that is how our team rounds out. Kabengele is huge. I think he can play. He can defend all 1 through 5, but I think he can really play the 3 through 5 for the Celtics if needed. Matt Ryan is just that secondary, or not secondary, but just another option, big wing who can shoot. 3-point shooting, we struggled with last year, and Matt Ryan can help with that. I don't think there's a lot of talk about Broderick Thomas coming back. I just don't really see the fit, given the way the offseason's gone with Gallinari and Hauser. I just don't know if he fits that well, and if it's worth keeping him in Maine rather than having Juan Bagarin out there. There's a lot of invested in Juan Bagarin, the draft and stash. I think Brad Stevens really intrigued by this guy and wants to see what he can do. But yeah, I just don't think like a Tristan Thompson or a Dwight Howard is gonna get any sort of contract over or roster spot over Trevion Williams for the big man. I think he's pretty solidified there, unless there's a big trade that's going to happen. There's talk about Aaron Baines as well. Aaron Baines is probably the only free agent I see the Celtics making a move in that position. But yeah, I think they have their team already figured out within their summer league roster.
You think the only reason they give Aaron Baines just give him a shot out of, the freak accident that happened, because he has a good relationship with the organization, that way would it be kind of a showcase for him if they don't keep him?
I thought about that too, because this is the best situation for him. He had great success with Stevens and the Celtics, and then obviously the relationship he's had with Udoka in San Antonio. I think they've won a championship together back when he was over there. So there's definitely those connections. A lot of people said the same thing about Al Horford. Is Al Horford worth bringing back? First round pick, large contract, and look what he did. He was one of our best players in the playoffs, and really great defender down the stretch for the Celtics. Really all season. And I think he's going to be like 37 this year, I think, Al Horford. And Aaron Baines, I think, is going to be 35. I don't know. I think the Celtics were looking at him during that workout he held in Vegas before the Summer League the other day.
He looked good.
I think it's worth it. Yeah, he really did. I think if he's 100, if you can evaluate him to be closer to 100% than not, I think it's worth giving a shot. He is that bruiser, just down low guy, and he can hit threes from the center position, which I think in today's NBA is valuable. And the Celtics don't have a guy who can do that right now from the center spot. So I think it's worth a shot, but is it worth a shot or giving the roster spot to him over Trevion Williams? I wouldn't do that.
I completely agree. Yeah, because you don't know if they're going to keep him to actually play him, or if he's going to be Udonis Haslem.
Right. And then, no need to carry a guy if you're not going to use him. I think that's the thing with Brad Stevens now. Like, if he's going to be on our team, then, or if any player is going to be on the team, then he has to have a role. And if not, then, we're not going to have you.
Yeah, so off the Summer League team, who are you liking so far? I know Matt Ryan last year, the man who worked the graveyard shifts at a cemetery or whatever it was, and he, kept up his game before he got an opportunity. Then there's the Frenchman, Juhan Begarin, or
There it is.
What is it? How do you say it?
Yeah, I butchered it earlier. I think it's Juan Bagarin with a very, very strong French accent that I can't do.
Nor can I. And then There's a few other guys who are hangovers from last year's roster, and then Jordan Bone, who's been on the Orlando Magic, and then I can't say the guy's name, but Kabengele, who's played for the Clippers and the Cavaliers. He's on the team. I think he was a first-round pick.
Yeah, 27th overall in 2019, I think.
Yeah, like less than 4 years ago at most.
Somewhat recently.
Yeah, and out of there, if it's not Trevion Williams, and we know J.D. Davison and Sam Hauser are on the roster, is there anyone else you think that has caught your eye? Like, or is the Frenchman coming?
Yeah, it's really just those three guys that we just talked about: Trevion Williams, Bagarin, the Frenchman, Matt Ryan, and Mafiondu Kabengele. Kabengele. Yeah, I think that's. I'm butchering these. I think that's how it
terrible.
is.
I'm terrible. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I apologize as well. But Kabengele has averaged over 18 points in the G League the last 2 years, and was actually just on the Grand Rally Valley, whatever, the team, the G League team that just won the championship. He's a G League champion. He was a big part in that team. I really like what he brings, man. He's big. He can shoot threes. He can defend. He can play above the rim. J.D. Davidson was throwing him lobs above the rim like it was Rob, and it was pretty great to see. Blue collar, I just think he's earned his shot. 2 years in the G League, I just think he's earned it. I actually wrote an article about it saying he can be a stud for the Celtics. Not many people agreed with me, but there's not many people not talking about the guy. So I think he's putting his name out there and doing a good job of showcasing himself in the summer league. Whether it's with the Celtics, or I hope it's with the Celtics, but maybe with another squad. I think he's NBA ready. Bagarin, he's NBA size, still a little raw, but he's improved so much since last year when they had him in summer league. And Matt Ryan, I just think he's a big body who can hit threes. It looks like over anybody. His stroke when he's on, and he's a quick to get hot guy, and then he'll hit 3 or 4 like nothing. I just think that qualities like that hold value on the Celtics, and we'll see what happens. I just don't think there's 3 other better candidates that the Celtics could give these spots to at the end of their bench than who they have right now.
So basically, after Sam Hauser, J.D. Davison, from what you're saying, it seems like bring back Matt Ryan, put maybe Trevion Williams on a 2-way contract unless they really want to put him on a roster spot, and maybe bring Mafiondu onto the roster spot, I guess, and then figure out I guess there'd be one more spot, and then you figure out if you want to bring somebody else on, or Trevion Williams, and then put somebody else on the 2-way.
Yeah, that's what I would do. I would bring Trevion Williams, Matt Ryan, and Mafiondu onto the roster and put Bagarin on the 2-way with Davidson. I guess it depends on how much they actually value Matt Ryan over me, what I think of Matt Ryan, because I guess they got essentially Matt Ryan in Gallinari, a guy who can come in and shoot off the bench. But there might be value in having him on another 2-way. So maybe there's that.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought when Bagarin was drafted, he was more of a point guard, but it seems like he's filled out to be more of like a forward. He's like 6'4" and 215, I think, and looks to be more of a forward. I don't know if point guards are going to make out so well on the Celtics. There's just so many. I think Peyton Pritchard we're going to see become more of a 2, which we enjoy when he shoots. He's a sniper.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be more of his role. So I'm glad to see that Bagarin is more of a forward, and maybe he always was. I thought he was drafted as a guard, but I'm glad to see him get more. I think he has more of a chance from the wing position than say a point guard position to play for the Celtics.
I agree. I thought maybe he could play the combo guard position. Maybe he could be like a bigger combo guard, but I personally always saw him if he filled out like he has. He's filled out surprisingly quick. He put on weight. Like he was 180 or 190 coming in last year. Now he's over 210, and like you were saying, like he's a kind of a big body now. It seems like.
Yeah, he is.
But now that we've talked that the roster that at the bottom, are we thinking that they're going to run out the same starting lineup of Horford and Williams the third, and then Brown at the 2 and Tatum at the 3 with, I guess, Smart they have to keep at the point guard so it doesn't hurt his ego?
Yeah, when I heard Udoka, or it was actually on the Woj pod today with Brogdon. He said, the Celtics said to me, would you be open to coming off the bench, playing like more of a sixth man role from the guard position? He said, yeah, I'd be open with it, open arms. I said all the right things. I want to do what I can to be part of a championship team. I want to help the team, blah, blah, blah. But that kind of told me right there that they're not going to shy away from the double big. And the double big never worked with Brad Stevens, and it worked tremendously with Udoka with the same group, so the whole double big, and I know it's necessary in the NBA. There's something about it with the Celtics. I never enjoyed it until Udoka was here last year, because it worked, but it didn't work in years past with the same people. So the way that they're treating the Brogdon thing, I do think they're going to stay with the double big. I don't know if it's going to be Al. I don't know if Al... I don't know. But yes, to answer your question, I'm pulling myself into other holes in the one question. But I do think they run it back with the same starting group. I think it's going to be Smart, Brown, Tatum, Horford, Robert Williams.
Okay, so then off the bench, I assume it'll be Malcolm Brogdon as the sixth man, as they said. Seventh man, you'd argue, Derek White, as they run those two guys, I think, kind of in coalition, it seems like.
Yep.
And they'll probably have like a guard by committee between Smart, White, and Brogdon, and maybe even run Brogdon or even Derek White, I guess, at some of the two guard on certain times when they want to go with different looks. Seems like they're going to have a lot of different looks with Grant Williams, Brogdon, Smart, and White, because they kind of can use them like little different chess pieces in my eyes.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think, Brogdon is going to be the general of the second team. With those pieces that you said, Grant Williams, Gallinari, and Hauser, and with White, I think they are going to pair White and Brogdon together more often than not, which is going to be intriguing because we saw that between the two, Brogdon's the better shooter than White, and the facilitator. So then at that point, if you're going to have them on the floor together, should White be more of the point guard than Brogdon? I think it's things that they're going to have to work out. That's even if they do share the floor together. So I guess we'll have to see. What would you do, or what would your ideal second unit be with Brogdon running the point?
I think I'm going to go off your idea of like the mini unit where you go Marcus Smart in the starting lineup, and then you go Derek White, Malcolm Brogdon as the backcourt. You run the front court out with Grant Williams at center, Danilo at power forward, and then small forward, that's the question mark that, like you said, is it going to be Sam Hauser, or is it going to be somebody else where maybe they keep one starter in at all times? Or do they maybe even they bring in somebody that we don't know, or if they go ultra small where they put Peyton Pritchard at the two guard, they put White at point, and they run Brogdon and in the wing position because he's almost 6'5".
Yeah, he does have some size, and he can play the wing position. That's another unique quality he has to him. I'm wondering if Sam. I think they enjoyed the fact of having Brogdon out there as a veteran presence with some of these young guys in this mini second unit that we're talking about here, where Brogdon is suave enough and sophisticated enough in the NBA where he can turn it on and off. He can create for others, but also himself. If it's not falling for others, then he can just pick it up. And I like that too. I think they want some veteran experience out there at all times, which is also something they didn't have too much of. But I think piggybacking off what you had said, I do think they keep a starter in for a lot of this, especially in transition between the first unit and the starters and the bench. And I think it's Jaylen Brown. I think Brogdon and Brown play together to start the second quarter, and they fill in the guys around Brown with Brogdon, if that makes sense. So you have Brogdon and Brown out there. Maybe you throw in Gallinari as well. Gallinari, you have Grant, like you said, playing the small ball. And someone else. But then maybe you have Sam Hauser come in for Brown. But I do think Brown and Brogdon are going to be on the court together a lot.
Yeah, no, I think the one big question mark is rebounding with like the second unit. Is that you just get scared if they can actually rebound the ball like effectively.
Yeah, second chance opportunities and just second chance opportunities as a whole last year is something that, especially in the playoffs, they just were terrible at. They couldn't keep up, and that's really what kept them out of games, is just not having those second chance opportunities. And the only person who seemed to be able to do that was Robert Williams. When he was out, it just wasn't happening. If you have all those guys, Brogdon's pretty active on the boards, Jaylen Brown. It is about defensively as much as it is offensively, because we know we're not going to get much defensively out of Gallinari. So you need to compensate for that with the other guys you have around him on the floor. But yeah, and that's why I don't know if small ball is going to be in their favor, because small ball Celtics aren't the best second chance opportunity type of team. But that's where, your backup big comes into play. Maybe they always have a big on the floor, like a real big, whether it be Robert Williams, Al Horford, Trevion Williams, and maybe allowing Grant to play more four. He was, he's a great shooter when he's focused, but he's also a great defender of all five positions. He really is like a Swiss Army knife, and he can do so many things. I guess it really just comes down to rotations and matchups. Who fits on the floor best with this other, with the other players, which is something Udoka hasn't had to worry about, because we saw he's only used 8 players last season. He hadn't had to worry about rotations and switches as much as he's going to have to this year. So I'm looking forward to seeing that aspect of Udoka. More of, I don't want to say more of like the coaching, because he did a great job coaching, but just the next step in his own coach as a coach, the next step in his own progressions as a coach. I'm looking forward to seeing with a full, complete roster.
Yeah, no, I mean, they did an excellent job for literally being able to turn around from a horrendous start to go on a run, to have the league's best defense. Like, first off, everyone was ripping on Ime Udoka at the beginning of the year like it was Jason Kidd on the Milwaukee Bucks all over again, where they're like, switching everything does not work. Switching at his tactics, but then it just seems like Coach Udoka just ingrained it in their brain. And I think that's why they're going younger, is I think it's easier to get young guys and mold them into what you want them to be than get an old buck, because those guys are set in their ways.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It really is. And it's all about development. And the Celtics have done a great job developing their young guys to be uh, serviceable for what they expect them to be. Pretty
Yeah.
much their entire team are all homegrown guys, and it's great.
No, no,
They've all been drafted by them, all spent time in Maine, all worked in house, and
Mhm.
it's awesome.
So, so as we wrap this up, I want to hear what is your predictions for this season. Obviously, anything below another deep playoff run is a disappointment. And what do you think? So obviously, any Boston Celtics fan is going to say make it back to the finals and win it. But what do you think are the keys to success needed for that to happen?
So the keys to I believe the Celtics can run it back if 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 they stay consistent, and that's actually something Udoka said, I think yesterday, or over the weekend in Vegas before the summer league game or he said it during the game actually during an interview. His stars need to stay consistent. Tatum, Brown, Smart. I guess now we have Brogdon. Those guys need to stay consistent. Defense needs to stay as sharp as it was last season. And just not to do too much. I thought the Celtics, playmaking has been this. Jason and Jalen need to do more playmaking. They need to get more assists. They should be getting triple doubles. They should be doing this. They should be doing that. And what I think happened was that there was just way too many chefs in the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly.
In terms of playmaking, and I think that's where Jaylen Brown, a lot of his turnovers came from, just too much going on in the mental, trying to do too much, unfocused, and it happens. When you're doing too much, you're not focused, you make mistakes. It happens in everyday life, not just on the basketball court. So just limiting the self-inflicted rookie mistakes, as I like to call them, just the silly turnovers, the stuff like that. If you're not a turnover team, if you can stay consistent, and the bench scoring, if you can have adequate production, allowing your stars to get rest, not using them 40 minutes a night, preserving them in certain ways to get through a playoff series. I think all of those are keys to the Celtics' success this season.
Yeah.
I also want to say to be more aggressive for everybody. Get to the free throw line. Don't just shoot threes or just shoot it up. Don't argue with the refs when it doesn't go your way. I'm sick of all the bitching. Just play your game, and good things come.
Exactly.
The energy goes where it needs to go. So yeah, I think just staying consistent, scoring, playing defense, because that was one of my keys into going into the finals with the Golden State Warriors. I wasn't worried about playing defense. I was worried about keeping up with them offensively, and that's what we couldn't do.
Yeah, yeah.
So if we can just, I'm not saying you have to outscore every team and put up over 100 every night, but it's scoring points consistently.
Yeah, and that's been the theme of this offseason. I hate to wrap things up, but I don't know why, but I guess my year plan of Zoom expired, and they're giving me only 40 minutes, and I thought I still had a year left on this, but I hate to do that. But no, the theme of this offseason has been continuity, and every team a lot of teams who didn't go all in this offseason have just seemed like they want to get with being consistent, and I think that's the main thing, that the Celtics were at their best when they were consistent. But either way, Justin Trombino of Hoops Habit Contributions, and as well as you said, what was it called?
Causeway Street, Celtics Files, Couch Guy Sports.